This episode of the Ron Purtee Show is brought to you by Audible. Head over to audibletrial.com/I'm Uncle Ron for a free 30-day trial. Remember the days when you were young and you had someone to read you a bedtime story? Well, don't waste your eye holes on a bright future. Use your ears and be told a story, oftentimes by the people who wrote them, by heading over to audibletrial.com/I'm Uncle Ron today for a 30-day trial. There are so many books. There is no reason not to do it. So head over to audibletrial.com/I'm Uncle Ron for your 30-day trial today.
This is the Ron Purtee Show.
Hey everybody, this episode is very important to me, and I have to do a little bit of explaining before we get into it, so please bear with me. Technically speaking, this is around my 1000th episode. Now, I know you're probably wondering, what are you talking about? You are dumb. It says 250. And I know it says 250, but the reason I say it's close to 1,000 is because I've been doing this thing in one form or another. Before podcasts were even a thing, I was doing like live video over on Now Live and Stickam and stuff like that. And I did it 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for I don't know how long. And then I took a big break. And I came back with this show, and doing the math, I'm closer to 1,000 than I am anything else. So just keep that in mind as you're listening. But I've been doing this a long time, and I have a guest this week that is very fitting for a 250th episode. Someone I've wanted to talk to for a long time. He was on a list that I had made when I was younger of people that I wanted to talk to. So, scratch that one off. His name is William Goldsmith, and he is the drummer for Sunny Day Real Estate, Assertion, The Fire Theft. He's toured with Mike Watt and some indie band. I think what they called, let me look at my notes here, the Foo Fighters. I'm not, I don't, but we had an amazing talk, and it was just an amazing time and kind of surreal for me. There are moments where I kind of fanboy out a lot, and I wish I hadn't, but it is what it is, right? You just kind of, you do what you do and you move on. But I'm very, very happy with the way it turned out, and I hope you're happy when you listen to it. There's some cool information in it, so pay attention, especially if you're a fan of Sunny Day Real Estate. There's some very cool information in there. So, I don't want to go any further without getting to it. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk to William Goldsmith. So that's going to be fun. So stay tuned.
Hey, this is Tim Midyep from Mid Mile. You're listening to the Ron Purtee Show.
All right, everybody, we're back, and I am here with someone who has been on my short list of people to talk to since about 2005. I always felt that reaching out to a member of this band was like attempting to contact the gods. Because which I'll explain during the course of this interview. But ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, drummer for Sunny Day Real Estate, The Fire Theft, Assertion, and some other indie band, I forget the name of, William Goldsmith. William, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I am to quantify what I was talking about. I was in high school, and I discovered a lot of the normal bands through like 120 Minutes, like Bad Religion and stuff like that. My friend turned me on to Nirvana, and he's like, "Here, you gotta check this band out."
and he handed me a copy of Diary, and that was it. It was all over for me. I was like, yep, this is the end all be all for me, is this band.
He handed you he handed you a copy of Nirvana and then Diary?
Well, it was Nirvana first.
Yeah.
And then Diary, yeah.
Yeah. Dude, man, you know what's crazy is, like, if you would have told me when I was in high school that somebody would have handed like a Nirvana record to someone and then a Sunny Day or whatever band I was in to someone to recommend to them, I probably wouldn't have believed you. I wouldn't have believed you.
It changed my life.
Funny.
It changed my life 100%, and it's
crazy.
And to this day, I remember when I forgot. I don't even remember who opened for you guys when I saw you at the Metro in 2000.
Was it Heroic Doses? Or
It might have been.
Okay, yeah, great. Instrumental, 3-piece.
I think so. I think so.
Basically, super insane musicians. All of them.
Yes.
Literally like mutants. Like, they're so good. Like Bill Dolan, Ryan Rapsis, and Nick McCree. Nick McCree plays bass. Ryan Rapsis drums, and Bill Dolan guitar. Just like astounding. Bill was also in a band called Five Style, and Ryan and Rapsis and Nick McCree had also another band that opened for Sunny Day and the Fire Theft a lot, which was Euphone, and it was just the two of them, and hyper talented. Like, it's pretty astounding. It's how good those guys are.
I only remember 2 shows at the Metro, and I'm not from Chicago. I'm in Wisconsin, and nobody ever comes to Wisconsin, even though like the area had a not too bad scene at the time. You never had bands come to Wisconsin because there's no real venue for them to play that was at a point where it wasn't too big and it wasn't too small, where they had that nice the Metro was perfect. But the only shows I remember ever seeing at the Metro were Jimmy Eat World and Hey Mercedes and you guys. Wow. And I looked around during In Circles and I saw so many people crying.
Wait, what year was this?
I want to say 2000. Because
okay, so was it? Oh, so it was Sunny Day for sure, yeah.
100%.
Okay, so it was like the very end of Sunny Day touring. So I think then that must have been Euphone playing.
That sounds right.
It had to have been Euphone. It was two people, and but it sounds like more.
Yeah. But it was just like this amazing. And what is that? What does that do to you, knowing that there are people out there who listen to Sunny Day Real Estate and just kind of, are enamored so much with the music that has come out. You know what I mean? Like, I have a friend who thinks LP2 is like this work of art. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it's just pink. There's nothing really on the cover, but it's that art.
So I think. So first of all I've ever so music has always been hyper personal for me. Mm-hmm. And everybody in the band. I know, especially like Jeremy too, where almost like I know that we can both identify this. Like, it used to be like it was kind of a private thing, and actually there was a period of time where all ages shows were illegal in Seattle. So like we couldn't play it all. I know. It was like this teen dance ordinance. It was like Footloose, kind of.
And then Kevin Bacon showed up, and everybody was happy.
No, he didn't come, but no, it was
the bastard.
It was Curtis Pitts played the role of Kevin Bacon. No, Curtis Pitts is the one that basically fought and it seemed to be the driving force behind making all ages shows happen again. And he was the one that actually put on the first all ages shows in a while, which Thief Steal Me a Peach played with Rain Like the Sound of Trains and Chikung. And that was Jeremy and Dan and I. When we were experimenting with playing with Jeremy and Dan was playing bass, Nate was on tour with Christ on a Crutch. And so that's when we started, we wrote a bunch of songs that ended up being on Diary. And then we wrote new songs as well as the four of us. Anyway, it's a long story, but so it's always been hyper personal for Jeremy and I. And really all I've ever really wanted to do with music that I didn't really come to fully understand properly until later was to basically document the human experience through music. And so when you are putting that much of your like just unfiltered humanity into something, then there's some people that that connects with, and to be, I've always wanted to make music that essentially connected with people. So, you know, documented the human experience enough to where people were able to recognize that and, you know, feel like, hey, I'm not the only one that is in a labyrinth, you know.
Right. I mean, watching the crowd during that show when you guys played in circles, it was like watching just nothing but empathy and sorrow pour out of people. It was so surreal. And I was like, that person's crying and that person's crying, and damn it if I'm not almost there. But then I'm like, wait, I'm a man, I don't cry.
Yeah. I know.
But it was so surreal. And so let me ask you this. Now, a lot of people see like the glitz and the glamour of being a musician and stuff like that.
I haven't seen that.
Well, that leads into my question. What are like some of the, like you say that it's an emotional release a lot of the times, and it's a very personal thing when you write songs and stuff. But what are a lot of the downsides when it comes to being a musician?
Oh, I mean, that all depends on the circumstances. I mean, I think it could be different for everybody. For me, like some of the things I went through were physical injuries, you know, from just repetitive, to be honest, like untrained, self-taught, you know.
You wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's nice of you. But yeah, so, you know, and I was hitting so hard, and in some ways, like it was almost like this weird sort of, it was like I was like boxing with myself. I don't know. It seemed like I was like almost punishing. It was self-punishment sometimes. I didn't know if it was meant to be like that, but I mean, or just a lot of anger, or sacred anger, you know, upset about like, you know, loss of loved ones over time and just not being able to process it well. And so that being the way to process it. And but I think I there were some injuries, you know, and I started like losing feeling in my hands a lot. I couldn't lift my arms past like this point, like,
oh geez.
And then when I would sleep at night, it felt like I had knives in both of my shoulders. And then if I turned the wrong way, I would just wake up just screaming. So I would just wake up screaming like over and over again throughout the night. And so I had to step back and sort of like take on this sort of like journey of trying to figure out how to heal that, to reverse that. So that was a hell of a long road, but that's a long story. And if I told you that story, that would be the whole interview probably. But like, but I mean, I cleaned my digestive system, and then I did a lot of acupuncture, some of which worked, primarily cleaning my digestive system, drinking 12 ounces of wheatgrass a day, 4 ounces every 2 hours, roughing 7 years of martial arts, and Bikram yoga, hot yoga. So it was this combination of all these things, and over time, but it was the rolfing that really helped, and the cleaning of my digestive system that really turned things around. So, well,
I'm glad it did, because that Assertion record is amazing.
Yeah, that was actually during the period of that was like right as Fire Theft was happening. That was
okay. So, okay, yeah. Which actually brings me to my next question, because I've had this thought in my head, and I never had anybody to ask, because they wouldn't know, but you obviously have firsthand knowledge of it. Fire Theft and Sunny Day are essentially like just one member missing.
Yes. Yeah.
So why not just keep Sunny Day going?
Oh man!
I mean, explain that to me. I mean,
okay.
I don't, because I'm a little lost on it.
So when we got together to work on stuff to maybe make a new record, which ended up being How It Feels to Be Something On, we originally got together with Nate, and we actually wrote some stuff with Nate that we never followed through on, because then we ended up not doing it with him. But anyway, we didn't hear from him for a long time, like a long time. He was gone with the Foo Fighters, and we just had no idea what was going on or what was going to go on and when. And it got to the point where we were pretty bummed. And then all of a sudden, just out of the blue, he calls and he was like, "Hey, we're going to make a record." And we just were like too frustrated. And we said, "No, man, we don't think you have the time." You know, like, I mean, you know, it's like we've been waiting for. So we ended up getting together with this guy, Jeff Palmer, who played in a band called the Mommy Heads, and he's from San Francisco. he did an amazing job. But so anyway, so that's how that happened. Okay, so that's how we ended up being 3. Then we ended up working for live for the How It Feels to Be Something On stuff. Then Jeff Palmer played played on the record, but then Joe Skyward, who passed away not too long ago, unfortunately, he played on the How It Feels to Be Something On tours. And then when we made the Rising Tide, it was just Jeremy and Dan and I, and Jeremy played bass. And then we made the Rising Tide, and we had signed to this record label called Time Bomb. And right when we were getting done with the process of, so the only way to make sense of this is to explain it because there were circumstances that led to it being like that. It seems so bizarre, from on the surface, but it's a long and winding road, unfortunately. But so we made the Rising Tide. Time Bomb, right at the end of the recording of Rising Tide, they got dropped by Arista and lost all their funding, and then they didn't tell us that. And so we got done with the record, and then basically we were told, by the way, there's not going to be any support. Nobody's going to be getting behind this at all. Arista is basically owns it, and they're just kind of going to put it out as in it's going to exist. But we're not going to get any tour support. So we basically toured anyway, figuring out different ways to try to make it work.
Right.
And then when we did that, Nick McCree from Heroic Doses and Euphone played bass on those Rising Tide tours, and Greg Saran, a friend of his, came in and he played third guitar, like more textural stuff and keys. So then we did those tours, and then basically we were kind of at a standstill because we didn't know how we were going to move forward, because we had signed this contract, and it was almost like Arista owned the record, but they didn't want us. So you know what I mean? So yeah. So that had a little bit to do with the next change, but then also we've had our problems. Jeremy and I have had our ins and outs, and Dan and Jeremy have, and Dan and I have, and it just so happens at that time Jeremy and I were having some issues back and forth with Dan, and so then we decided to just do this other project, the two of us, and luckily, but now Dan and I and Jeremy are all basically our friendships are stronger than they ever have been before in the past. We basically hashed things out. We basically sat down and just had it out. It was a long there were long conversations, but we said the things that we needed to say. We cleared up the misunderstandings that shouldn't have been. You know what I mean? And it was so important to do. And so I'm I feel really fortunate. It's weird, the three of us were in the room and we were it's so weird how much home it feels, Right. Because the three of us, really have been through several things of fire, we've walked through fire together a lot, and we really walked through the fire and got to the other side. I think that has concretized our family oriented friendship, brotherhood. It's just bulletproof now, and I feel fortunate. And I've been trying to be a better friend. I've been trying to show up more, and be more communicative, because for a long time I literally cut off all contact with everyone. It was the only way I could describe it is committing suicide without dying.
Oh.
So basically disappearing, not even existing to anyone else anymore at all. No one. Family, nobody. And so yeah, pretty crazy, I know, but then, I started just sort of living this life of being a father, and which has its challenges, but yeah. Anyway, so that's a long answer to, I can't even remember what the question was. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's right. So, oh yeah, you were saying that how did it end up with so many different members? So then that's how. Then we ended up doing the fire theft, and then, Jeremy and I had been together for every day for about 7 years. And anytime, living together, touring together. So 7 or 8 years, I guess. And, we needed to take a break and need to go and sort of like go and grow as human beings and, come back. And Jeremy and I have always done that. It's like, we'll come together, go like this, learn some stuff, come back, go like this, and then like that. So it just keeps going. And we're there. That's a good thing. We're there again. Yeah, no, it's like nice to be there again. So yeah.
Well, okay, so then here's a two-part question. First part is, I'm gonna ask this in a very weird way. Am I going to be able to buy a home from Sunny Day Real Estate in the future at all?
I think some houses are going to be going up on the market in spring.
There you have it, folks. The most ass-backwards way of finding out some amazing information. And now you mentioned like having to be apart from Jeremy and then getting back together. How are you and Nate these days?
I haven't talked to Nate in a long time.
No.
Yeah, it's been since the reunion tour thing since then, and we, and us trying to do some recording like the Lipton Witch and the other stuff. But so it's been a long time. But what's the other cool thing though is what's also really neat is on a side note is Jeremy. What's cool is Jeremy and Justin from Assertion have really started to build a really strong friendship. Like they get along really well. And what's cool is, so we're working on this next Assertion record, which I'm really, 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 really excited about. Like I'm really excited about it. Like the first record is cool. I'm proud of it, but it was kind of a learning experience, and everything that we learned, especially Justin, man. Justin has to take the credit for all the heavy lifting, really. Like he's been doing all the engineering. Like I'm helping, but he's behind the wheel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So like as far as production or engineering. So, but Jeremy and we do this thing where like a few times a week or more, the three of us will basically Zoom together and like we're doing. And Justin shares a screen and he brings up Logic, the record we're working on. And he basically we bounce ideas off of him and stuff. It's cool. And so he's been kind of participating in that. And he's going to maybe do some singing on it, which is cool. The two people that I've like really established this weird sort of like unique rapport, spiritual friendship, like understanding sort of things that most people don't talk about, from each having unique experiences, that some of which may not have been all of that pleasant. But I mean, the fact of the matter is just to be so deeply rooted with both those guys, and then to see that happening with them, and then also like, having this musical relationship and, or the past or future or whatever, maybe. And then, now it's just, and then have Jeremy helping out. It's just really cool, man. It's like
a really, big musical family.
Well, no, it's just very, just really, really solid friendship. It's very, it's amazing.
So then with the new Assertion record coming out, when's that coming out? This spring sometime or?
I don't know. So I think we're probably going to be done with it realistically, really like done, like to the point where like, it's like, I'm going to say 2 months maybe of like, because we still have one song that basically has the drums tracked, but it just still has a scratch guitar on it. And we've got to put everything on it. And that song is crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to crazy. I really am. Now, you had mentioned prior that houses are going to be going on the market this spring. When will the Assertion tour start then?
I just don't know. Like we did have a tour set up and then it got canceled because of, the whole everything going on.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah, the good stuff, good times. So Jeremy was going to go out on tour with like Thursday and Chris.
I saw that. That was such a weird lineup.
Yeah, but now that's not happening. So, I mean, our focus right now is to get this record done and get it out. Mm-hmm. And then we'll really only know as time goes on how touring can happen, Right. But also, the thing about it is like, we have to be really strategic about the touring thing because we have kids. I've gone out of town and played a show, but I haven't gone out on the road since I've had kids. So, I've got a 4-year-old, 6-year-old, 13-year-old. So we have to be strategic. It has to be for a reasonable amount of time. It has to be not just pounding the payment, playing to like 6 or 7 people a night because they haven't heard of us or anything.
Right. No,
you know what I mean? And I have to be able to we have to be fortunate enough to hopefully get on a tour opening up for someone that maybe has a draw and having some reasonable amount or some merch, because I have to come home with some money for my family. I mean, I just don't have a choice.
I totally get that. And
you know what I mean?
And that leads me to my next question is you've been vocal in conversations we've had off the air about how you have a son who's on the spectrum, and and you said that there has to be like a schedule. And I totally get that, because and as listeners of the show know, I have a special needs brother who is in the very same way. If we don't eat by a certain time, he gets very upset about things. How is that going to work with you not being there, being out on the road? Because I'm assuming that you're part of his schedule.
Yeah, man, I don't know yet. That's the biggest challenge. But I mean, it's an inevitability for sure, but not for too long of a time in spring because of the houses going on
Of course,
on the market. But I mean, that's for certain. So I don't know yet, man. I'm worried about it. To be honest, I'm a little bit worried about it. But at the same time, he has the ability to adapt. Like he can. When he's faced with something that maybe isn't like exactly how he wants it, it doesn't fit together exactly the way that he wants it, but he knows those are the only shapes that are available. And so he knows that he's got to just roll with it, you know, and he knows that it's probably going to be temporary. He can handle it, I think. I know I'm going to FaceTime a lot.
Thank Steve Jobs for technology.
Yeah. Or Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
or Star Trek, you know.
Either one. I mean, I'm not big on Chinese food, but whenever I watch Blade Runner and I see him eating those noodles, I'm like, those look really good.
They do, don't they? That's weird. I'm a huge Blade Runner fan. I that's kind of a special movie.
It always takes me a good 4 times to get through it. I keep falling asleep. I don't know why, but that and Suspiria, I can't watch all the way through, but I like Blade Runner and I don't like Suspiria. So
yeah. Blade Runner is just the soundtrack and the visuals just very interesting, you know.
Yeah, and it's just a fantastic film, and I haven't seen the new one yet, so I have to.
It's okay.
Well, nothing is going to have the same feel.
Of course not. Of course not. But I mean. But, you know, I don't know. I think maybe they sort of like accepted that idea. And so just were like, okay, and so let's just roll further away from it. I mean,
right.
I don't know. Deckard was dressed like a high school teacher or something. I don't know. It was just weird, you know, like dude, where's the trench coat? And I don't know. It just was weird. But I guess in a way, he was dressed like a high school teacher back then too, in the 80s.
A little bit, like
yeah. So yeah, I guess it just looked dark, but really it was kind of goofy. The tie and everything. But you know, I don't know.
Yeah, like my brother, if I tell him I have to spend the night away from home, he freaks out one night. You know, so I totally get where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. So it's I mean, he sometimes a little bit of time away from me is, I think, good for him. Here and there, like an afternoon or something, or like recently I just went to Tri-Cities and played a show on New Year's Eve with a band called Ladybird Unition, and so I was gone that night. We stayed there that night, and I was back the next day, and he did fine. You know, he did fine. So I think it'll be okay.
Well, that's good, and that's all you can do is hope for the best.
Yeah, for sure.
Now you were out of the, like you mentioned, you were out of the picture, just like you said,
just shy of a decade.
Yeah. And how did you get back in with Assertion?
I met him digitally. I met him through Facebook or whatever, you know?
Right.
And he had reached out and he had basically said, you know, I was inspired to start trying to play drums by listening to Seven, and I just want to say thanks. And so that was really nice. And I started looking at what he was doing, and he taught music and teaches music, but also was teaching music to children that are on the spectrum. And I thought that was really interesting because, you know, of my son and stuff. And so I found that very fascinating. And then I discovered his band that he has with his kids called Pig Snout. And I was totally blown away. like, I was like, wow, the songs were great. He was a really, really, really awesome, unique singer. It was this slap of reality. Like, it made me realize that seeing this guy sharing that part of himself with his kids, and realizing, oh my God, not only have I not been doing that, but I've literally been hiding from it and it from them. And I was like, wow. And it was a crime. It was like, it was the worst thing in the world that I couldn't do that anymore. You know, I mean, what you want to try to give your kids is you want to be able to try to give them like a foundation of being able to be self-reliant and, you know, have like self-respect and be assertive and all that stuff. I'm doing my best. I hope I am. But then you also want to give them some kind of magic. And that's the only magic I have that I can give them. That's the only thing that I have really.
Pretty magical.
And so, well, yeah, sure. I think so. I mean, and so I was like, man, I need to start playing again. So I started playing with Justin, actually, to be honest. So the funny thing is I was like, oh, I got an idea. Maybe they'll let me like sit in with them at some shows or whatever, like a second drummer and back up, like, you know, though. So Dahlia, his daughter, and Lucian, his son, they would trade off, kind of switch instruments. So sometimes he'd play drums, sometimes she would. So I was like, man, I would be, you know, back them up on drums and, you know, like second drums and try to take the songs to a new level. And just as an idea, just because I was so inspired by what they're doing. And Dahlia said no, she wouldn't let me join the band.
Aw.
She said it was a family band.
Oh, and, so it's like the Partridges.
Yeah. She goes, it's a family band. She was like, what's his last name? So Justin was nice enough to just start playing with me on this, you know, like a totally different thing. We started and we went from there, you know, and then we just started writing. And then when the COVID thing happened, you know, we started playing some shows, started writing songs, even going back and listening to some song ideas that Justin has had for years, which he has files of hundreds of song ideas. Like he has one file that's like 307, another file that's like 271 or something. It's just, there's like 3 files with hundreds of song ideas. So every now and again we'll go and we'll sift through those and we'll be like, yep, can use it. Yep, we can use it. Yep, we can use it. And sometimes we'll like go and take one, just like back and forth, done. Take another one and back and forth, done, you know? So, and it's cool. So it's awesome. It's a really cool, we have this weird sort of ability to put puzzles together. Well, you know what I mean? Right. It's like you're building this story, you know, and it's like a puzzle and it's also like a, you know, it's like a maze that you're finding your way through. It's very interesting. And it's cool. And so much of it is like on a subconscious level. And it's just so like it's like a primal thing. It's interesting. So, and then there's time, and then after the primal thing comes out, and then all of a sudden you take the microscope to the primal thing, and then you start like refining and trying to find the right sort of strategic kick and, you know, beat patterns and everything. So
would you say that COVID in a weird way kind of made the songwriting process a little bit easier?
No.
Okay, fair enough.
Well, no. What I mean is our songwriting process has basically stayed the same and actually only sort of like gotten this stronger muscle, you know, like and it's sort of been, it's either maintained and strengthened. With the COVID thing, it was more that we just were like, well, okay, let's just finish the record. Let's just keep recording. So we basically just kept recording. We finished the record, we put it out, and the COVID thing was still happening. And so we just kept recording. And so we ended up with, so we've got 2 more records of material right now for that, like most of which is got like rough tracks for.
Okay.
So we've got a bunch of stuff tracked, but we've had to basically sit down and kind of go through and be like, okay, record 2. We had an original idea of what record 2 was going to be, but then we wrote all these new songs, and then we were like, shit. So we were like, okay, so we took this, we put this on the back burner of record 3, maybe record 3, and then now we've basically got the other half of the record all brand new. And so
that's crazy.
Yeah. So it's nuts. So, and the record was going to go kind of like really, really heavy, and then it was going to kind of go down and sort of like be very, very sort of subdued and stay that way. Then it was going to go back up and then end that way. Now it just basically is pretty much just like heavy and then subdued. It's just heavy all the way through and then subdued pretty much. So
that is, I can't wait to hear all this. This sounds like it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I sent you the one track, right?
Right. I loved it. It was great.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that one.
That was fantastic. Now, you guys were also listed amongst people like Lana Del Rey and, dare I say, Taylor Swift as like one of the best albums of 2021 so far. What does that feel like? Because Rolling Stone, I know Rolling Stone started off like back in the 70s as this magazine. It's like you want to be on the cover of if you're in music. Yeah. And now it's like, hey, I'm going to do an article on whatever.
Yeah.
You know, how does that feel to be like part of that kind of group, I guess?
I don't know. I mean, everything is always unexpected, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, total surprise. Total surprise.
Actually. A good surprise, though, right?
Yeah. But I mean, I think a lot of it. So John Fraser from Spartan Records, he had established contact with some folks at Rolling Stone, and I know that God, I can't remember who it was. The other band on Spartan, and there was another one of the bands on Spartan. I wish I could remember who they were. I'm so sorry, you guys. I don't. But he
really loves you. He swears.
Yeah, but no, I don't even know if I just remember hearing in passing that there was another band on Spartan that had their record basically release, first single release on Rolling Stone. So they basically reached out to them and asked them if they would be interested in having our first single be released to them, and they said yes. And so that's how that's so connect. Awesome. So that's how the record basically ended up getting to them at all. So I think that's has a lot to do with how that happened. You know?
That's so awesome, though. That is so. I mean, just to be kind of like I always wanted to write for Rolling Stone when I was younger. Now, I mean, not so. I mean, if the pay's good, fine, but not so much. You know, it's You know, I got into this whole thing back when I was 15 years old, and I'm 42 now. And I started. I had a band show up at my house after I put up my first zine, and they literally showed up at my door. I'm in my pajamas. I'm 15 years old, and the line was, "Get dressed, you're coming with me." And I'm
what?
Like, yeah. So I went down. It was like a total Almost Famous moment. And I went down to this coffee shop and I interviewed them. And it just so happened they were in a band with one of my best friends, who's still my best friend to this day. And it's actually the guy who gave me Diary to listen to. Yeah,
holy
so
crap.
It's a big circle. It's a big circle.
Whoa, man. Holy crap. Yeah.
Sunny Day has been like this driving force in my life for I gotta do math. That's 15. That's another 10. Oh wow, 22 years.
Jeez. It's crazy. Like it's funny how, or more interesting as you get older, how many full circles just you keep running into. And they'll be very, very interesting, unique, almost serendipitous, like meaningful coincidence kind of thing, It's crazy.
It's amazing. It's just so and I'm going to say again, and I said at the top of the program, this is a complete and utter honor.
Thank you.
So it's like I said, this is like reaching up and trying to touch God for me.
I don't know.
There's only a handful of musicians that I feel that way about. There's you and Jeremy. There's Skylar Kroom from He Is Legend, and Greg Graffin from Bad Religion.
Oh wow,
Greg and Jeremy are the only ones left on my list.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
so. And Greg's from my hometown, so you figure it'd be easy.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Brewers.
Yeah. What's weird is when I was a kid, I saw Gary Newman play. I was like 6 years old. I saw Gary Newman play on Saturday Night Live, and it scared the absolute crap out of me.
Oh wow.
And then I saw, when I was like 17, I was watching this movie called Erg, A Music War, and it has Gary Newman in it doing Down in the Park, and it more intrigued me this time, but it was still creepy as hell, but it really intrigued me. then I got like, you know, all the old Two-Way Army stuff, and then listened to that a lot. And I had this this Dodge Charger, and I would drive around. I had a cassette deck in there, and I had Telecon, and I had a Pleasure Principle, and all this Two-Way Army stuff. And I would listen to that a lot, just driving around by myself. And I just was really fascinated by the dude and by the music, you know. And Down in the Park was always one of my favorite songs. And then when I was in the Foo Fighters, Dave said, hey, we should do a cover. What song have you guys always wanted to cover? And I was like, Down in the Park. And he goes, well, me too. And I was like, wow. And I was like, that's cool. So we did a cover for Down in the Park for this X-Files soundtrack. It was like the songs in the key of X or whatever. And so then years later, Gary Newman was touring again. And this is when I was in the sort of the How It Feels to Be Something On sort of era of Sunny Day. And our booking agent was in contact with his booking agent, and it was somehow arranged for me to basically come backstage after his show and meet with him. And he wanted to meet me because he knew that I was part of doing that cover. And I think that cover maybe helped kind of generate that. And also I think Marilyn Manson covered that song too. It was a combination of those two bands covering Down in the Park. Got to kind of spark people's interest with Gary Newman, and that helped him. I mean, I don't think he needed help, but I mean, that's right. That sort of thing. And anyway, so it was just crazy. And so here I was face to face with this dude that scared the hell out of me when I was 6 years old. And it was a trip, man. It was weird. I was like, God, I was like shaking, you know? And I was just like, dude, you know, I really love, you know, your music has really just had a profound impact, and that just has meant a lot to me over the years. And he was super humble, super nice, and just felt fortunate to be able to be playing, you know, and playing shows and having people come, you know, super humble. His parents were his tour managers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. So they were like up in years, and you know, he was like, "Are you ready to go, Gary?" It's like,
this is Gary. The car's Gary Newman, right? We're talking about.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
that is crazy. That is.
And his dad. He and his dad fly around. They're pilots, and they fly around the world once a year and stuff like that.
Awesome.
I know. Anyway, just kind of a funny side story, but
that is so. Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's a trip, right? I know, Gary Newman. I know you wouldn't think, but man, Telecon is an interesting record, and all that Two-Way Army stuff has got a weird vibe to it. It's just cool, you know.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So now, we'll go out on this. So you mentioned the Foo Fighters, and we had kind of briefly talked before about everything that went down. And did you have any kind of thing that you want to say about that? Real quick, just before I would love to be able to sit down with the dude, because I know that if we would have sat down a long time ago and hashed out everything that went on, because, you know, it's like, I haven't dealt with what happened in the best way, and I know that I know that they didn't deal with it, the thing that happened, period, in the best way. And right. So I would go back and I would like to have just hashed it out and talked about what had happened a long time ago. And I know that if we had, or if we did, we would probably be friends to this day, or we will be friends if we would just sit down and talk about it. There's still time. You're both still alive.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a matter of, it's the, that's an invitation, I guess. But like,
maybe if this gets to him somehow. First off, Dave, you're welcome on the show. Second, sit down with the guy, for Christ's sake. You know, I mean, hash things up, because we don't get out of this life alive. But William, it is fantastic. You can find Assertion on Facebook, and if you go to their Assertion band on Instagram, there's a link tree with all the links to like everything.
Yeah, Spartan Records is our record label, and and our next record is going to be called "Basking in the Gaslight."
Ooh,
yeah,
ooh, that sounds fancy. And you don't,
yeah,
I can't wait for that one. That's going to be
we've already got the artwork too and everything. So,
that's awesome.
It's so close to done, man. It's like,
if it's half as good as the first record, it will be a brilliant piece of music.
It's a whole like evolutionary leap forward. Like it's songwriting, production, and everything. It's just I'm really, really, really fortunate to be able to be part of this record. Yeah.
And I for one cannot wait to hear it. I'm sure a lot of the people who are going to be after the break, we're going to hear. I can never remember the name of the song.
Lamb to the slaughter pulls a knife.
Yes, I have it written down so I don't mess it up.
That's
I'm just like the Lamb song, you know.
Yeah, well, you told me at the beginning, so yeah. So that's
so people will hear that, and then they'll want to definitely check you guys out more. I thank you so much, and I appreciate everyone. 250 episodes. This has been fantastic, and I appreciate you listening to this audio only episode. It's it's a throwback, and I might start doing more of them because I don't know. It's just more freeing, I guess. You don't have to worry about the camera. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to listen to that song from Assertion, and then we're going to call it, and we'll see you next week. So thank you again so much.
Thank you again, sir. I appreciate it.
This is the Ron Purtee Show.